Welcome to Japan according to Akil. Everything you wanted to know or didn't think you needed to know about Japan. Hey everyone, what's going on? Long time no see. I don't know if you can see him. My dog is on my lap right now. So if you see me like shifting uncomfortably or a shadow run off, it's him. Also, I got the rice cooker on. It's probably going to pick it up because, again, I'm not using a mic. I'm just plugging in my phone and going for it. Got a little bit of time before my family comes back from my son's soccer practice. So, or football, depending on where you're from. But I'll say soccer because I'm American. So, just thought I'd come on and say what's up. Say what's up to you guys. Audio land, what's going on? Video land, what's up? Thank you guys for joining in for another episode of Japan According to Akil with my co-host Doggy on my lap. Sorry you can't see him. Again, I'm just trying to put out some stuff. It's been a couple weeks because I've been really focused on my other content related for Japanese people. That's the main number one reason. I'm really into it now. I got my groove. I think I know what I'm doing, so I'm really happy about that. Over the past few years, longtime listeners and watcher viewers have probably, heard me mention my other entrepreneurial endeavors into language studies here in Japan, and I've had several failures, but I feel like each time I kind of learn something new, and yeah, I think this time I'm on to the main vein of what I should be doing with my life, if you will. I'm seeing progress in my numbers and stuff like that, and I'm just building up, trying to get the rest of my social media, my online stuff going. So wish me luck on that. But that's pretty much almost every night. Either I'm spending time, family time with my wife, or I'm watching Love Is Blind. Season 3 of Love Is Blind is such a train wreck. I love it. It's my guilty pleasure show with my wife. Doing that, us watching that together, spending time together, or if not, coming back from work, doing a little bit of recording, doing a little bit of editing, getting my stuff up online most nights, or if I'm tired, I just rest. So that's why you haven't heard from me for it should be about 3 weeks, I think. Again, I'm trying, and also I just really didn't. To be honest with you, I didn't have anything to talk about. I was like, for 2 days, I was like, what am I going to talk about with these motherfuckers? But the only thing that's really relevant for me is the Japanese economy and the Japanese yen, and that's the number one story for me that's ruling everything. That's I think that people in Japan and outside of Japan should be paying attention to. I don't think everyone is, but even though they should be, you're shivering, Dougie. Okay, I got you. It's all good. But that was a little cold. The weather's starting to change here in Japan, so fall is upon us. It was really, really nice yesterday, but from today, it's starting to get colder. So that's why he's shivering. He's like, "What the fuck, man? It's cold." He's a Chihuahua, so. But anyway, the Japanese economy, man, the yen is fucking in the dumpster. You've heard me say before, 200 yen is kind of my to the $1 is kind of my not what I'm aiming for, not what I'm hoping for, but just my psychological worst case scenario, if you will, that I've been kind of had in the back of my mind. It looks like it's probably gonna happen for me, my side. I was thinking, 160, maybe now 170 by the end of the year. And then by springtime, it'll just keep steamrolling on down there. Japan is kind of funny because when I said that, I think early summer or something like that, a few friends, a few students who were in finance, everyone kind of laughed at me. And don't believe, by the way, this is not financial advice. Don't take any of this shit. I'm a dude who drinks beer and sake, talking from my cell phone in my living room with my dog on my lap. If you take financial advice from me, you got fucking problems. Okay, let me just say that. Because, come on, please, sorry. Yeah, I've been having some, yesterday and today, occasionally, I'm not getting sick, but something stimulating, tingulating my throat. So But anyway, occasionally like a little bit scratchy or whatever. But anyway, yeah. So I mean, things are really heating up in the Japanese economy. I don't want to get too deep into finance talk, because I just really push play. But pretty much, the if you want to know what's going on with the Japanese yen, if you're outside or inside Japan, basically the yen is just in a death spiral. That's about it. It's just in a death loop right now because there's pretty much nothing that the Japanese government can do to stop the yen from depreciating over a long period of time. So the government has been doing some interventions in the Japan in the forex FX market. What by doing that, meaning they're basically selling. What are they doing? Selling dollars, and buying yen, which a large amount of yen, which means temporarily, which makes the yen get stronger because the demand for the yen artificially gets stronger. But the problem is, I read an article online, like a underground financial website. Whatever, I'll tell you, it's Zero Hedge. I don't get all my news from Zero Hedge, but I get my like conspiracy financial news from Zero Hedge. So I like to do mainstream news, alternative news, conservative, liberal, Japanese news, and also like for the wild shit, I like to check Zero Hedge on the daily, because if you're into finance, like many of the big stories that happen are broken there first. I'd say about like 60% of the big stories about like economic stuff or trends changing or trouble and stuff like that with the economy. I get there first because they're not really constrained by like anything, so they can say whatever the fuck they want. So I like to just even if just check the headlines on a daily basis just to pick some stuff up. Japan's really been hot in the headlines there, and some stories about the Japan FX market interventions. Have there been some speculation before I first heard by them that they have been actually selling American bonds? So by selling American bonds, basically treasury bonds, they have I think they're the biggest holder of U.S. Treasury bonds in the world. I believe right now they passed China several years ago, I believe. Um, so by selling some of those, they get cash. They get like fucking cash. They get American dollars, and then they sell those dollars to buy yen, in which makes the yen go stronger. And according to this article, basically this seems like there's been four times that they've done it. The first time they done it, they announced it beforehand. It seems like there's been two other times where the Japanese government has done it stealthily, and Friday recently they've done it again, but each time with tepid results, if you will. So what that means is, though, the thing is, like, it's fucking crazy because, okay, I'm just rambling, sorry. Sorry if you don't like finance, sorry. But basically what that means is, by selling American treasury, American bonds, that, if you don't know, but basically if you're selling a bond, it makes the interest rate go higher, which means the value of the bond goes lower. So look at me sounding like I know what the fuck I'm talking about. Okay, but anyway, so if the interest rate goes higher, in some ways, the spread between Japanese interest rate bond interest rates, which is like fucking nothing, and American ones keeps getting larger, which makes it more attractive for I'd say Japanese investors and also foreign investors or whoever. Let's just say Japanese investors to actually sell yen and buy American treasuries because you get more interest over the life of that treasury. So, which makes the yen weaker because if more people are selling yen to buy dollars to invest in dollars and dollar denominated assets, that further weakens the Japanese yen. So you can see the more they try to do to fight this shit, the more they're feeding into the shit. And also, like, we can keep going, like, because inflation is starting to creep up now. The and Japanese people are starting to get antsy about it. Like the government's like, okay, we're gonna do something about high energy prices, we're gonna do something about this shit, and we're gonna print some more money to give handouts to people, like subsidies to people, to help pay for their, I think it was out there, electric bills or gas bills or something like that. 2,000 yen, which is now like what, like fuck, I'm terrible at math, but you know, like whatever, less than $20, okay, a month to help subsidize people's gas bills. But the problem with that is the more fucking stimulus the Japanese government does, that means the more yen is put in the money supply, which means the more inflation is there. So pretty much like everything the government is doing, short term is kind of popularist. Pop, I think is the word. Fucking policies just to try and keep Japanese people like at bay, if you will, and to stop them from getting frustrated. Because my family and I, we've been really talking about this the past several weeks. I'm sure a lot of other people, in Japan are starting to get a feeling for something has changed. But you've probably heard me talk about it since the situation. Again, I'm not trying to get shadow banned by this thing. The situation has started is that the massive expansion of money in the world is gonna cause inflation, right? I knew it was gonna come in 2020. And from 2020, just looking at the balance sheet of every central bank in the world, make it go bloop, that tells you something's coming. Okay, sorry about that. Some of my neighbors came. I had to, stop things for a second. But like I was saying, from 2020, I kind of figured this was gonna come. I was telling my family, we've been really exchanging information about it. And it's become like the hot topic for my family. I realize like right now, I imagine that for a lot of Japanese families, it's become an issue, but the core reason of the issue hasn't really hit home for a lot of people yet. And that, it is, like, from my opinion, like a collapse of the currency, to be honest with you, is what we're going through. I don't know how serious the current. I use the word collapse is very dramatic, but it's a fucking collapse, right? I don't know how dramatic it's gonna be. I don't know like how stiff the inflation is gonna be. My wife is like, "Are we gonna go into hyperinflation?" I'm like, I don't fucking know. I honestly don't. But I do hear financial. But pretty much the easy way to think about it is that all of the central banks in the world are raising their interest rates, except for two countries, major central banks in the world are raising interest rates to fight inflation, except for two, Japan and Turkey. So the Turkish lira, if you don't know, is just Google what's going on there. We're on that side of the equation, which for me, the eyeball test kind of says like, okay, like we're, what I'm saying, we in for some big Thunder Mountain kind of like hurricane, rocky road ahead is possible. But how rocky, I don't know. How long, I don't know. But it seems like definitely at least until spring. Since we're talking about raising interest rates, the conventional thought outside Japan and here in Japan as well is that the central bank will raise interest rates in spring when the head of the central bank, Kuroda, leaves office. I personally, I would be fucking surprised if that happens. I don't think they're going to do it because they can't. Like first they have to slow down the rate of quantitative easing in the country, which means the rate of money being pushed into the country, into the economy. Any slowing down of that, I think, will start a spike in the bond market. And if you're watching what's going on in England, like I heard, like I'm watching that situation closely because I feel like it gives a few clues of what could possibly come down the road next year in Japan. And they said something quite interesting. There's been a whole bunch of government turmoil. It's complicated. It's even complicated for me to understand. But the few things that I got from it was just watching Bloomberg and shit. Like they were talking about basically that there is a choice, in the country between sacrificing the sovereign debt market, the bond market, and sacrificing the currency. And pretty much like the government chose to sacrifice the currency, meaning devalue the currency to save the bond market and not deal with the pain of that. Because if you do that, then society fucking implodes basically. And I feel like to a certain degree, I don't know how much, Japan has a similar dilemma. Either let the currency just devalue itself into oblivion, or you let the bond market, rise to the appropriate level. One person I know who is really heavy into finance, he's like a really mainstream, dude. A lot of really in-depth knowledge about like this type of stuff. A financial professional. We were talking about it recently, and he was basically telling me like he read that like currently the Japanese 10-year interest rate, they set like ceiling at 0.25 yen, right? 0.25 interest percent interest. But basically, oh my, okay, my dog's good. Sorry, sorry, my dog's trying to act a fool. But basically, he was telling me the appropriate level for that is like 1.5% interest. So basically the Japanese government bonds should be trading at 1.5%, and now they're at 0.25. 1.5% would bankrupt the fucking country of Japan, just because of the massive amount of debt that the debt to GDP ratio is so huge for the country. There's no way that they can service that, and so the Bank of Japan kind of knows that. And basically, a YouTuber I was watching, who's talking about, a financial YouTuber, I'll give a shout out to Hearsay Financial. I listen to him for some stuff. He breaks down really deep financial issues in a more digestible kind of way, which I kind of like. So that's another piece of the puzzle of my daily or regular financial input, and he was saying like, the English situation, the British situation, sacrifice the currency. Oh yeah, that's where I heard that from. Sacrifice the currency or sacrifice the bond market. But the Bank of Japan is choosing to do neither, and it could lead to destroying them both. And that, I think, is a very Japanese trait. Like, foreign news really says, yeah, in spring the Bank of Japan is going to have no choice but to raise rates. And why aren't they raising rates now? And several weeks ago, international news was kind of like, oh, okay, what's going on in Japan? They should be preparing to do this, but nah. Because remember, Japan isn't really a proactive country. It's very reactive, especially people at the head. Like, those kind of like old Japanese thinking is extremely reactive and doesn't want to, do anything to disrupt the status quo at all, at fucking all, right? So even you probably, long-time listeners have heard me say this before, that even though it's better to just rip the Band-Aid off and save the pain, nobody wants to really do that here. Not only in government, but in companies and just in general. It's very rare to find Japanese people who can see something negative coming down the pipeline, and instead of kicking the can down the road, proactively, do something that would be uncomfortable, but for the long-term benefit. People are kind of really averse to that kind of thing here. So that's what, I mean, it's one of the pros and the cons. I mean, Japanese people are very conservative, so you don't get those big sways in society. But also at the same time, in situations like this, when you need nimble, speedy response, you're just not going to get it. It's better to just delay it and then all hell breaks loose in 5 years, instead of like, just go through some pain for one, do what needs to be done, and then benefit. No one's going to take the short-term choice. And I mean, other countries kick the can down the road, but I think nobody does it as much as Japanese people do. And in this type of situation right now, me personally, I think it's just fucking too late for it already, if you will. So it's just like countdown to the fucking economic boomtown, apocalypse. I don't know if it's apocalypse. I don't want to be like, hyperbolic about this shit, but I'm just saying, like, I think something big is coming in the Japanese economy. And next year, when the next Bank of Japan head comes in, and it's his expectation for him to raise interest rates, I don't think he'll have the stones to do it personally, because right now the narrative has changed from CPI, Consumer Price Index, right, of Japan. It was always below 2%. And the whole goal of Abenomics, of Prime Minister Kuroda, was to raise the CPI above 2%. Well, we hit that earlier this year. So they moved the goalposts, and I think I've talked about this before, to say, okay, no, we're not, that's not important. We need to raise salaries, which Japanese companies are not going to do because they're very conservative. And we have like the regular employee system and a whole bunch of shit. It's just either they don't have the cash or don't have the will, don't have the culture to do that here, right? It's just not going to happen. So that's become, because now the CPI is 3%. I mean, and it sounds like a lot, but for Japan, who's just had negative or no inflation for about 30 years, 3% inflation is fucking huge. And that person in finance, he was telling me, yeah, it's gonna get a lot heavier, because basically the PPI, the producer price index in Japan, is not 3%, it's 10%. And it's been that, I've been keeping an eye on it too. It's been growing, and it's been about 10%, the 8, 9, 10% for about a year. What that means is that producers in Japan, like manufacturers, retailers, have been eating a 10% fucking month on month, price increases for about a fucking year without passing it on to customers, right? But finally, several months ago, earlier this summer, I think summer or spring, they just said fuck it, and at first they were like scared, like please take these price increases, and then it's been a cascade of price increases over the months, and consumers have been taking it. So what that means is, just like in America as well, once retailers and producers realize that, oh, okay, they're actually going to accept these price increases, they have the okay to actually filter through a lot of like the losses and inflation they've been feeling. So he's been saying, so basically what that means is, from now until next year, it's not going to stop. It's just going to be continuous and continuous price increases as like the manufacturers try, or producers, I'll just say producers, try to make up for the price increases that they've been eating for the last year and a half. So according to him, which makes sense to me, you'll also probably see in the headlines the inflation numbers in Japan continue to rise into next year. 3, 4, 5, maybe, 6, 7% maybe in Japan. So imagine we got like a weak yen, 6, 7% inflation. The yen's at like 170, 180. All hell is breaking loose. The dollar is going to keep going up until at least springtime. And the central bank doesn't raise interest rates because it says wages aren't being increased, which they will increase, but it is different from the West. Like, no one's giving you like a 15% raise in Japan. It's going to be like a 1%. With heavy negotiation, maybe 1.5, because most negotiations take place in springtime in Japan. So I heard like they're already trying to get a 5% increase, and like, good luck with that shit. So many major like corporations, the unions and stuff like that. So yeah, so I mean, I heard that like about a few days ago, and I was like, yeah, that fucking makes sense. So now my thinking, I'm just telling you how I'm playing this game, because we're at a point in history right now that's never happened before. So I'm just I'm not playing the game, I'm not trading, I'm not anything. I'm just trying to understand where we are in this situation so that I can make the proper adjustments in my everyday life and in my family, so that we're not like floored when we see these price increases, when energy prices go up, when the gas bill, the light bill, everything goes up, and buying stuff, going to Costco becomes more expensive, and all this other shit that's happening now is like, okay, this is what it is, this is to be expected. So let's move and adjust our spending habits, our saving habits, my income habits appropriately. And we're not like floored by it. So yeah, like so pretty much like that's another part to the puzzle that I'm preparing myself for. I'm preparing myself for runaway inflation in Japan, which is something that has not been seen for like 35 years. So you have a whole generation of Japanese people who have not seen that. Interest rates could possibly start going up, which could trigger we're in a huge real estate bubble right now in certain sectors of the real estate economy, which could trigger, because defaults in that like nothing, because because the interest rates have been zero for so long, a lot of Japanese people have adjusted. It's like for anyone under, I'd say 50 in Japan, 40, mid 40s to 50, it's lunacy to have an adjustable rate mortgage. That's been the common knowledge because interest rates are always at zero. So I think that's part of the reason why the Bank of Japan doesn't want interest rates to go up, because they know corporate financing. Well, I don't know about corporate financing. I'll just say real estate. Real estate in Japan is based on adjustable rate mortgages. And unlike America, where, hey, you lose your house, hey, whatever, it happens, you start over. Japan isn't really like that. And so having a Lehman collapse type moment where there's a huge real estate shock in Japan would fucking not be nice. Okay. Okay. It would not be nice. And Japanese people would not take it well. All right. So, that all these things are on the table from my perspective, right? And it's things that I think Japanese people haven't really started waking up to yet in general, but people kind of are getting the sense that, wait a second, something's going on here. Why are prices so high? Why is things expensive? What's going on? But again, in the land of the blind, the one-eyed man is king. So I'm not trying to have two eyes. I'm not trying to trade stuff and do. My wife was like asking me, should we do this and should we do that? I'm like, you can go ahead and do that. I'll feed you as much information as I can if there are any changes to let you know. We can continue to talk about it. But me personally, as the man of the house, my job is not to trade or gamble with these things. My job is to be there for as like the last line of defense in whatever capacity I can. So I've spent 2 years, doing my due diligence as far as that goes, and now I'm just reading tea leaves and trying like, okay, hey, this is expensive, this is going up, we got to do this, we got to do that, we got to do this, just to kind of, but of course in the context of like having our daily life, because I'm not trying to like have my family worry and panic about this type of shit either. So that's kind of where we're at right now in Japan. I just kind of spit out a bunch of stuff. Again, I'll try to remember to put Zero Hedge and links to Heresy Financial in the description. Just if you are into this type of shit, those I think are two alternative news sources that I use to give me a different perspective about what's going on here. And anything that pops up related to Japan, I just definitely take a look at. It can be deep stuff. If you're not interested in it, it's probably going to be boring as fuck. But again, like after the last financial crisis, I really got into macroeconomics and how our money works and how the economy works, and became somewhat of an Austrian economist, if you will, a hard money advocate. So I'm not pushing that philosophy on you. Just food for thought and some perspective about what's going on here as I see it. Again, just an English teacher with a fucking chihuahua sitting on my sofa on my day off. So, hey, take it as you will. Hope it helps. Hope it was interesting. Let me get out of here because my family's about to come back. So I will holler at you next time. Peace.